Okay. So next topic is this disposal of solid waste, starting with our composting. So composting, as defined earlier, as a process in which organic matter of the solid waste is decomposed and the converted to humus and stable mineral compounds. So the end product of composting process is called compost, which is a rich fertilizer. So there are three methods of composting. So composting by trenching, open window composting, mechanical composting, right? So composting by trenching, so this method trenches 3 to 12-meter long, 2 to 3-meter wide, and 1 to 2-meter deep are excavated with a clear spacing of 2 meters. The trenches are taken, then filled up with a dry solid waste in layers of 15 centimeter. On top of each layer, 5 centimeter thick sandwiching layer of night soil animal dung is sprayed in a semi-liquid form on the top layer, protruding about 30 centimeter above the surrounding ground layer. So layer of earth having thickness of around 10 centimeter is laid so that there is no problems of flies. So intensive biological actions start in 2 to 3 days and organic matters decomposition starts. So in this process, considerable heat is generated and the temperature of composing masses rises to about 75 degrees Celsius. So due to this, fly breeding does not take place. The solid waste stabilizes in 4 to 6 months and get changed in the brown color, odorless, innocuous, powdery form known as a humus, having a high manure value because of its nitrogen content. So stabilizes mass is then removed from the trenches, screened to remove coarse inert materials like stones, brick beds, glass pieces, plastic articles, etc. So indoor method of composting, this method of solid waste, night soil and animal dung, etc. are placed in the brick lined pit about 3 by 3 by 1 meter deep in an alternate layer of 7.5 to 10 centimeter height. So till the total height becomes 1.5 meter, chemical insecticides are added to prevent the fly breeding. So the material is turned regularly for a period of about 8 to 12 weeks and then stored on the ground for the 4 to 6 weeks. So in about 6 to 8 turnings and period of 4 month time, compost becomes ready for the use as a manure. So insecticide used in indoor method was DDT, but now because of very high life of DDT in nature, other suitable insecticide is recommended. For example, gamexin, etc. Next is the Bangalore method. So the solid waste is stabilized anaerobically. So earthen trenches of size 10 by 1.5 by 1.5 meters deep are filled with the alternate layers of the solid waste and the night soil or the cow dung. So the material is converses with 50 centimeter earthen layers and left for the biodegradation. So in about 4 to 5 months of compost, it becomes ready for the use. So normally a city produces 200 to 250 kg per capita per day of refuse and 8 to 10 kg per capita per year of night soil. So hence a town of population is 40,000 will produce about 8,000 tons of refuse and 3,200 tons of night soil. Composting will produce about 5,600 to 6,740 of compost annually from the above waste, right? Next is a open window composting. So in this method, large materials like broken glass pieces, stones, plastic articles, etc. are first removed and then remaining solid waste is dumped on the ground in the form of piles of about zero point 0.6 to 1 meter high. So the width and the length of the piles are taken as 1 to 2 meter and 6 meter respectively. The moisture content is maintained at 60%. The piles are then covered with a night soil, animal dung to supply necessary organisms for the biodegradation. The temperature rises because of biological activities in the waste piles and the microbial action shifts to uh, mesophilic and thermophilic stage. So after this pile is turned up for cooling and aeration to avoid anaerobic decomposition, the temperature of pile again rises to 75 degrees Celsius and process of turning, cooling and aerations are repeated. So complete process may taken 4 to 6 weeks, and finally compost is ready to for a use as a fertilizer. Next is a mechanical composting. So this composting by trenching and open window composting method require very large area. So the processes are laborious and the time consuming. So in large cities, the larger area may not be available, and therefore mechanical composting is adopted, which is very fast, and mechanical devices are employed in turning the solid waste undergoing composting. So stabilization of the waste takes only about 3 to 6 days. The operation involves in a large scale compost plant have been shown in the figure, right? So this operation involves first is a reception of the reuse, second is a segregation, third is a shredding or pulverizing, fourth one is a stabilization, and fifth one is a marketing the humus. So the refuse is received at the plant site in a quantities of 2 to 6 tons per vehicle. Storage capacity of plant site therefore should be 25 to 50 percentage of total daily arrival of solid waste. Segregation is done by hand picking in the small plants and by mechanical devices on the larger plants to remove the resins and non-ferrous metals and the large objects. So the ferrous metals are removed by magnetic separators. Fine materials such as ash, particles of garbage, etc., are removed by passing the refuse over the shake screen. Remaining refuse is then shredded and pulverized mechanically. So the prepared refuse is then composed and stabilized under controlled conditions of temperature and moisture contained in a mechanical digesters of various types, such as pits or cells, windows or stacks, vertical or horizontal cylinders, and silo. So closed digesters are most hygiene and occupy less space in this digesters, the refuse is digested and converted into the humus and stable mineral compounds. The digestion period is smaller, about 2 to 5 days for low cellulose or low carbon nitrogen ratio. It is a higher, about 7 to 8 days for the waste having more quantity of cellulose or high C by N ratio. So incineration can be defined as a controlled combustion process for the burning solid liquid and the gaseous combustible wastes to gases and residues containing a non-combustible material. So incinerators are used for the process of incineration. So following important points should be observed carefully during the incineration. So first is the charging of solid waste should be continuous. Each batch of waste should well mix and proportions of fuel should be such that the complete combustion takes place and the proper temperature is maintained. Auxiliary burners are usually installed above the refuse to ignite it and to establish the draft at the beginning of the cycle. So this is required when the moisture content of solid waste is very high. The minimum temperature in the chamber should not be less than 670 degrees Celsius so that all the organic matters is incinerated and foul smelling gases are oxidized. So advantages is that it's the most hygiene method, complete destructions of pathogens, no other trouble, heat generated may be used for raising steam power, clinkers produced may be used for the road construction, less space required, adverse weather conditions has no effect, and looking forward that there are also disadvantages, which is large initial expense, care and attention required, otherwise in a complete combustion will increase air pollution, residues are required to be disposed of which needs money, large number of vehicles required for solid waste transport to the site of incineration. Okay, next is the type of collection system. So collection system classified into the two categories, which is based on the mode of operation, which is a whole container system and second is stationary container system. So whole container system known as HCS. So the containers are collection of solid waste are picked up and handled to the site of processing or disposal and emptied, and then empty containers are again hauled and the place at the origin location. So the schematic diagram of the system is shown in a figure. So as container location 1, The C1L is loaded container, which is a haul to disposal site. So it is emptied and now it is hauled at original site. So this empty container is denoted by C1E. So thus a C1L is loaded container which is hauled at disposal site, emptied there, and the same empty container hauled and placed at the origin location 1, which is denoted by a C1E. So next is a stationary container system, which is known as HCS. So in the system, the containers are not hauled; they remain at their location and they have emptied in the collection vehicle, which has got a very large capacity to accommodate the solid waste. The vehicle receives the waste and places empty containers as at its original place, move to the other collection site and repeat the process. The schematic diagram for the system is shown in the figure. Okay, next is a transfer and transport. So the functional element of transfer and transport refers to the facilities, apprentices, other means and equipment used to attain transfer of wastage from relatively small collection vehicles to the large vehicles and to transport them to the large distances to either processing centers or disposal sites. So transfer and transport operations become necessary when the haul distances to the sites of processing or the site of disposal increases from the collection point and the direct haul is uneconomical. So transfer station are the places where the solid waste arrives in the trucks and load the waste into the larger trailers having very large capacity of around 120 meter cube. So important points to be kept in mind while designing transfer stations are type of transfer operations used, uh, capacities to transfer the waste, equipment and accessories requirement, environmental requirements, legal provisions. They should not be designed for ultimate peak number of early load. So the transfer stations are classified as a direct discharge, storage discharge, and the discharge and storage discharge. So first one is a direct discharge. So in direct discharge, transfer stations, solid waste is directly discharged into the large capacity vehicles for transporting it to the processing or disposal site. To accompany with the transportation is construction in such a way that the collecting vehicle directly discharges waste into the large capacity transfer vehicle as shown in the figure. Now, second is a storage discharge station. So, in this type of transfer station, wastes are emptied into the storage pit or on a platform from which they are loaded to transport vehicle by various other equipment. But the waste is stored in a pit or a platform for about 1.5 and the 2 days. So third one is a combined direct and storage discharge. So sometimes both direct discharge and storage discharge methods are used of a transfer station. So these are multi-purpose facilities designed to serve a broader range of users. Material salvage operations can also be housed in such stations. Now, last topic is the solid waste processing techniques. So these techniques are used for achieving following purposes, which is improve efficiency, recover resources, and prepare materials for the recovery of conversion products and energy. So the equipment used for the on-site processing should be evaluated for the following factors, which is a capacity, reliability, service, safety of operation, as of operation, efficiency, effects on the environment, on its use, health hazards, aesthetics, economics. So the important solid waste processing technique used for municipal solid waste are compaction by compactors, volume reduction, manual separations of waste components. So compaction by compactor, so the mechanical volume reduction is the most important factor in development and operation of solid waste management system. So collecting vehicles are fitted with the compactor to reduce the volume of the waste because of compaction and site number of trips are saved. So there is a saving in a labor also. The final density of the municipal waste after compaction reaches to 1100 kg per meter cube. So this fact important is evaluating claims of manufacturer or compactors. So the other important advantage of compaction is it increases line life of landfill sites. So there are also thermal volume reduction, which is known as incineration. The volume of solid waste can be reduced by more than 90% with the thermal reduction process. So in this process, waste is incinerated in municipal incinerators. And the disadvantage of this method is increase in air pollution. So the waste contains lots of different organic constituents which shall produce different pollutant gases when incinerated. Because of this negative aspect, thermal volume reduction is not widely accepted practice. Now, manual component separation. So this method should desirably be encouraged at the source of waste production. For example, the resident should separately keep the solid waste into the different bins. So there shall be different containers for glass and ceramics, organic, putrescible waste, paper, paper, etc. And the authority shall collect the waste by collecting the vehicles.